Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends Podcast. Podcasters, I'm helping you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is Cath Hughes. Now, Cath qualified for Durham School of Podiatry back in 1984. That was a long time ago, Cath.
I'm a dinosaur, officially a dinosaur.
So I'm going to read part of your bio because I actually thought it was really interesting. Since then, she has specialized in the prevention of diabetic complications and reduction of amputation, as well as working for over 25 years with professional footballers, including 8 seasons at premiership level. She has created several injectable treatments that she believes has the potential to revolutionize the way we treat common pathologies in our clinic. Her passion lies in elevating the podiatry profession and seeing our skills recognized by others in the medical arena. So, Cath, welcome to the Podiatry Legends Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really interesting to meet you in person after following you for so long. And I'm just delighted to be here to talk about innovations. Hopefully we can help someone.
Oh, that's the whole idea of this podcast. Like I said at the beginning, help podiatrists feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession and realize there's so many podiatrists that have got unique stories and how they came into podiatry, but also they're doing some pretty cool things, which we're going to touch on during our conversation. And the whole idea is to inspire the podiatry world.
That'd be great.
So going back a few years, 1984 is when you graduated. What got you into podiatry in the first place? Can you remember way back then?
I can. My mum worked for the NHS and she said, if you become a chiropodist, because of course in those days it was chiropody,
yeah,
you always have a job in the NHS. Needless to say, it wasn't long before I went solely private, but there you go.
So that's initially what got you in, that there would always be work.
Yeah, I think you've got to be a people person to be in podiatry. So, I think you've got to have the longing to be chatting to people and helping people. If you're not happy doing that, then it's probably not the profession for you, because that's the biggest element of it, really. And I don't mind gruesome pictures. I was never someone that was put off by looking at blood and guts on films or on pictures, so that's always an advantage as well, especially working with diabetics, I found. So
yeah, I don't mind blood and guts. I just can't handle pus and open wounds.
I don't mind. I think bad breath's worse. I wouldn't want to be a dentist.
Oh no, yeah. My brother said to me one day, "Oh, how do you look at feet?" And I went, "How do you stick a hand in somebody else's mouth?"
Yeah.
I go, "I've never been bitten by a foot." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, fair enough." So I want to touch on what you mentioned about you did 8 seasons at premiership level with professional footballers. How did you go from working with diabetic complications, reducing amputations, and then working with professional football teams at the same time?
Oh, total fluke. My GP, who was a friend of mine, was the doctor for Wigan Athletic. And Wigan Athletic at the time were in the lower leagues, the non-league leagues, if you like.
Yeah.
So I would go ad hoc when it was just a shed in a very waterlogged field, too waterlogged to play in winter and too dry to play on in summer. And there was myself and a physio, an ice machine and a fixed couch. And I just did that for a while. But we were the fastest climbing club in the history of football. So we went through the leagues faster than any other in history of football. Also, the other record we hold is that we won the FA Cup and got relegated in the same season. That's another record that we've got. But we ended up in the Premiership for 8 seasons. It was fantastic. And I saw this evolution within the club and the changes in the amount of money the players were getting paid and the amount of time I was having to dedicate to the club. They got paid a lot more, I didn't. But I ended up being there like once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week to look after all these feet that were becoming more important.
So what were you actually doing with them? Because if you had that interest in diabetes, complications, reducing amputations and all that, and you probably had a bit of a reputation for that, why did your GP select you to help out with the club?
Well, let's face it, if you can deal with diabetic patients, you can pretty much deal with anybody, can't you?
Yeah,
so
true.
You hone your skill. Yeah, and I'd been working in the NHS for quite a time by then. He trusted me, which was great.
Yeah, that's important.
I love football. That helps as well. But the difference in the feet is, feet are feet, but the graphotic nails that you see in football, especially defenders' feet, are horrendous. I actually met up with one of the old footballers who's now managing the ladies' team at Wigan. Emerson Boyce was the captain when we won the FA Cup, and he's now managing the ladies' team. And I went down last night to give them a little talk about the importance of podiatry when you're playing football I mean, ladies football's taking a great leap now across the
huge,
world,
yeah.
especially in the UK. So I was happy to go down and give my time up to just talk to them and explain a little bit about biomechanics and stuff. And he said, "Oh, I remember you had to give me an hour, Cath." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've forgotten that, yeah." And that was, yeah, you don't expect to give an hour of your time. And I'm quick with a scalpel.
Yeah.
When you're in the NHS, you get quick with your scalpel, don't you? So yeah, I used to give him time because his nails were horrendous, and the amount of hard skin he produced was horrendous. So I saw some pretty awful feet in football, and the injuries they get are quite bad too. We think that they're soft because they roll around a lot, but they get chunks knocked out of them, I can tell you for sure.
Oh,
But very interesting.
I used to do a lot of work with one of the national basketball teams here in Cairns, and their feet. Yeah, you'd think basketball. What's a basketball player's feet look like? Awful. They look awful. Picture your grandmother's feet, but younger.
Yeah.
And uglier, stuffed in a shoe. And because the amount of pivoting that they actually do on a court, and okay, you see them during the game, but the amount of training that they do beforehand, then the game, their feet were horrendous. So I picture anyone at an elite level who's wearing a boot, who is doing hour upon hour of training, their feet are just going to get smashed no matter what the sport is.
And of course, your traditional treatments, you can't adopt those. So you can't stick a pad on a corn. The player's got a corn. You can enucleate it, but you can't stick a pad on, and then they go out in the pitch and they're playing against somebody like Man City, and they can't stop halfway through to take the boot off because the semi-compressed felt pad slipped. It just doesn't work. So it brings its own set of challenges. They're young, sweaty, active, and they've got a lot of other things they want to do. They don't want to hang around while you're spending. They want to get off from the training ground and go play on the PlayStation or go to the golf course. They don't want to be messing around while I'm trying to experiment with different pads and things. So a lot of challenges. It was great. It was a great experience for me.
So what made it come to an end? At what point did you go, I've had enough, I need to move on?
Oh, well, I invented a new treatment while I was working with the footballers, which is called Curacorn.
Yeah.
And what happened was we inject a sterile gel cushion intradermally, and that was found to actually just stop corns coming back altogether. And I had a private practice at the time, so I used it in the footballers. It worked. I used it on my private patients, elderly patients, active patients, started working. So that, and because I was already a teacher, I'd already done my postgrad. I studied my master's at Salford. So I was at the point where other people wanted me to teach them this new treatment. So that kind of took over.
So how many years ago was that? When did the Curacon thing first start? When was the first injection you did?
2010. I created it over many years, but about 2008, I came up with the concept, and I couldn't find anybody to teach me how to do this. I had the idea that it would work.
Yeah.
Because you can't stick a pad on. So I needed something that I could cushion from within the skin. But nobody was doing it. The old silicons had died. Do you remember the old silicons? We were found that they were carcinogenic and around the body. So nobody was doing it. So I'm quite a creative person. My family and friends will tell you that. So thought outside the box and thought, well, if nobody else is doing it, I need it doing. I'll go away and find out how to inject gels. So I went away and learned how to do facial aesthetics and then adapted those techniques to the foot. So it took quite a long time to perfect what we do now. But it was
quite
very
unique.
Very expensive journey and a very interesting journey. But the rewards were great. So my private practice changed completely because of this new innovation that I was introducing. I was curing patients instead of cutting them again. Yeah.
Okay, and to go back a step, because before we press record, you mentioned something that you did a post recently. You were getting feedback about new techniques or innovation in podiatry, and you said you got some really interesting feedback on it.
I'd experienced how innovation had changed my practice. I'm a big believer, and I try and encourage people to upskill to advanced treatment. So I think nowadays in the commercial market, we are well aware. I don't know what it's like in Australia, but I know in the UK particularly, there's a lot of people who've not been to university that are qualified.
Yeah.
I always do that. To cut toenails. And I found this post, and the post was in my local group, and it said, "Do you struggle cutting your nails? Let me help. Nails clipped and filed, hard skin removed, 10 quid. Now, that's very cheap. This is not a podiatrist, by the way. Optional foot massage with cream is 4 quid. and you can have a pedicure for 20. I'm not quite sure what the difference. I imagine a pedicure is kind of, I don't know, painting the nails.
Maybe pushing the skin around the nails back a little bit or something, or don't know. No idea. Never had one.
No, I have, but it's more of a beauty treatment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I put that out on Facebook. I thought, I'm speaking to Tyson this week, and I really want to see what the views are out there. The biggest feedback I got was that not many people replied to it. So apathy rules.
Yeah.
Go figure. I think that's a big obstacle in our profession. I don't know if you agree with me, Tyson, but apathy tends to override. But some of the comments, we have these kind of two levels. I was saying it in my post. Let's debate this. Should we be concentrating on advanced treatments, on innovations, on things that we are skilled to do, that our degree enables us to do, that involve things like local anaesthetic, involve breaking the skin, involve advanced diagnostic skills, and deprioritize routine treatments? Or should we be concentrated on routine treatments because it's always been our bread and butter? And what I really get upset about, Tyson, is that in 1984, when I came out of uni, I was taught exactly the same way to cut toenails and things that they're taught now. I was taught LA techniques that they're still teaching now. We're still using dental syringes. I don't anymore. I've changed the way we do local anaesthetic, and people that train with me to do Curacon have changed the way that they do local anaesthetic. We don't need to cause pain unnecessarily. So it's those kind of things. I'm thinking, why are we still doing that after all this time? Because the beauty therapists, they're doing foot health practitioner courses. They are seeing the commercial market for what we call routine treatment. So should we really be trying to compete with people who haven't spent over £40,000, I imagine, perhaps more in the UK? Are we doing a degree just to do what we could do if we did a beauty course? So should we be that's the question, should we be coming away from that and allowing people that haven't got a degree into our clinics, into our practices, to do the bog standard routine stuff? People that don't need a degree for that. Yes. And should that degree be concentrating on teaching these innovative new treatments, cortisone injections, lasers? The list is endless when you think about it.
It's
and
true.
Then some of the comments were interesting. They said that we need to do routine treatment when we come out to university to fund courses to do advanced treatment. So I pointed out that many courses will pay for themselves pretty quickly. You can cure a corn. It doesn't take long for you to recoup the cost of the training that enabled you to do that. In fact, the Curacon course comes with a starter kit. So by the time you've used your starter kit, you've recouped the cost in profits. You've recouped the cost of the course. So I don't understand why we're in 40 years, we're still doing the same. Is there any other profession in the medical fraternity that still does the same stuff that they did?
I don't know, but I look at my brother in dentistry, and I look at how dentistry has progressed over the years and all the things that they do, and how many dentists, where implants used to be just something that a specialist did, but now there's other dentists that are doing it. But there's still some dentists that just still do the drill and fill, scale and clean, just do the basic work.
I bet there's not many.
No, they're few and far between. But they also have what's the other thing in dentistry where they do a lot of the scale and clean work for them?
The dental hygienists.
Yeah, the dental hygienists, yeah.
So it's that scale of that scale of skill set that I think we need to embrace, and we need to, I don't want to pigeonhole people, because there's no reason why people can't move around that scale. Yeah. But surely we don't want to be moving down it. We want to be moving upwards. And my biggest worry is that when I worked in the NHS with diabetic patients, my job was to go around to doctors' surgeries, and never before in our area had a podiatrist had access to GPs and practice nurses and practice staff in that way. And they were gobsmacked when they realised, once I started in there, they realised what my scope of practice was. They had no idea. They didn't know the difference between state registered and non-state registered, because in those days, we didn't have HCPC registration. Yeah. It was state registration. They had no idea that there were people that did a quicker course that hadn't been to university. They had no idea of the MSK skills that we had, of the preventative diagnostic skills that I had, until I started working there. And it was brilliant to be able to communicate with them firsthand, get in there and re-educate doctors, GPs. And I re-educated vascular surgeon in my area, the orthopedic surgeon, and they embraced it. It was brilliant. They were happy for me to filter patients through with a Doppler test that I'd done. I found that they got a blocked artery. I did my ABPI, and I would refer directly to them because it saves a lot of work. It quickens the pace of referral. The GPs don't want to be bothered with that kind of thing. And I became a strong believer in working together as a multidisciplinary team. But how can we work together if they don't know what we do? And then they see things on social media that perhaps insinuates that we just still cut toenails.
Yeah, I know it's one of those things that, like I know every country is different. And because I talk to so many podiatrists in so many different countries, I've got a really good feel of how different they all are. And in Australia, there seems to be a real shortage of podiatrists at the moment. And I don't think it's so much as a shortage of podiatrists. I think there's an overabundance of really crappy jobs because people are just setting up in medical centers, back rooms, just chipping and clipping toenails all day, cutting off a bit of skin. They're making some money, and then somebody graduates, they work for them for a couple of years ago. Well, this job's crap. I might as well just go and do it myself. So then they do the same thing. So you got this abundance of people out there cutting toenails, cutting corns and callus. And there was someone I was talking to today, and they said, they're talking to someone to come and work with them next year. They've been out for a year. They're concerned now after being out for a year, and all they've done is cut toenails and scrape off corns and callus. They have not been allowed to see one biomechanical patient. That their biomechanical skills, they feel they've lost them all. And I took them through this process to, look, this is how you retrain them really fast. And they were like, great, let's tick that box. We'll be able to do that. And I said ages ago, I can't see why, like podiatry in Australia, in most places is a 4-year course. Then why not just make the first 1 or 2 years just general podiatry, clipping toenails, corns and callus. And if you want to leave at the end of the first or second year, you can leave and you're a podiatry assistant that has to work for a podiatrist, just doing all their general work. And those that want to go on and, because there's people who actually really love doing routine foot care. And I take my hat off to them. If you really enjoy doing it, then that's what you should do. You shouldn't have to hang around for the next 2 years, spend more money to learn about biomechanics, learn how to do local anesthetic, learn all these other skills, and you're never going to use it. It's a total waste of time.
And there would be nothing stopping them from going back and doing the other 2 years at a future
if they want to do it. Yeah.
That they wanted to introduce new skills and new services for the clients. Yeah.
So I don't know how they'll ever be able to do it, because it'd have to be something between the association, the universities, the registration boards. So it'll probably never happen.
Perhaps not, and that's sad, isn't it? But that's already established. We have got FHPs here, so they can go and learn to be a foot health practitioner. But they're advertising exactly the same stuff that we would class as our domain, 90% of our domain years ago. Now, when I'm talking to people that are newly qualified, I'm always trying to encourage them, look, do you want to spend all day making a little bit of profit? I mean, anybody can be a busy fool, can't they? But a little bit of profit, cutting toenails, taking hard skin off, or would you sooner do nail surgery, Curacorn, Swift, laser, to heal people, to get rid of the problem, charge more per hour, so your profit margin is going up. And that's why it's so important that people concentrate and prioritize marketing. I know you're doing a marketing workshop over here in February, which will be exciting, because they don't teach you marketing at uni. That's something I've had. I love marketing. I'm intrigued by how people buy.
Yeah. So do I.
It's such an interesting topic. And so we need, it should be compulsory. I think you should actually, your course should actually be compulsory at all universities, because people still don't know what their hourly overhead is. They set their fees based on what somebody down the road's charging.
Oh, yeah, I know. What's really funny is I've got friends who are chiropractors, and they said the business side of chiropractic is a big part of their actual course. They're taught how to do it. But what's funny, when I wrote the world's greatest podiatry book, it's no secret there's money in podiatry. But when I wrote that, I wrote to all the universities and said, hey, Albert in Australia, I'd love to come in, talk to your final year students about the business of podiatry, or what they can expect in their career when they come out, and give them some tips and advice. Not one university got back to me. They all just ignored me. I did it again the next year. They ignored me. Did again the third year. And one of the smaller universities, Southern Cross on the Gold Coast, reached out to me. So I did a talk for their students. But then I've done it for dietitians, but I've done it for the podiatry schools in California. I've done it for podiatry students in Canada. Yet in Australia, not interested.
I don't know why. Because if you can't...
Because they're dumb. They're dumb. I put it down to some of the people at the universities who are running everything are just dumb.
It's not a priority.
They're not stupid people. They're probably smart people, probably very intelligent people, but they're dumb when it comes to understanding that if the podiatrist can be better at marketing themselves, even if you're not a business owner, if you're working for somebody else, being able to market yourself out in the community is a positive for the whole profession.
Absolutely. And you know what? Without communicating and really boasting about what we can do to everybody else that's within the medical community around us, without doing that, and we've not done it in all my professional career, it's very rare to find anybody outside of our profession that understands what we do. Without communicating that and showing off to everybody we can, then we're still going to be stuck in another 40 years, wondering why nobody cares and the GP doesn't refer people to us. Well, that's because he probably thinks we just cut toenails. Why would you refer somebody with a sore Achilles tendon to the local podiatrist?
That's true. Well, I was at a sports doctor's clinic this afternoon with my daughter. She had hip problem, and he works from an orthopedic place. So in there with the sports doctor, he's got the MRIs up on the screen. He's going through the hip. And I just started asking a few questions about different things. And he said, "Are you in the health industry?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm a podiatrist." And he goes, "Obviously." He said, and then we started talking a completely different level about the hip and different muscles that my daughter needs to work on, or whether if this is the problem, this is a stress reaction here, is surgery required. We're discussing all this stuff at a different level. And you can see straight away, he's obviously had contact with some good podiatrists because he didn't treat me as though I didn't know what I was talking about. And I think that's important for the profession.
Definitely. We need to increase the respect that is within the other medical disciplines. We need to increase the respect that they have for our skill set. Otherwise, I'm convinced that podiatry will die. I've just been over to Egypt. I volunteered my time and I've been over there to a diabetic centre. They don't have podiatrists in Egypt.
Yeah.
It's simply not a profession. And I saw the results of not having podiatrists in Egypt, because the patients that came in for this trial that we've started in Egypt, using Curacorn in areas where there's been an ulcer and it's healed. So the aim of the study is to show that Curacorn can replace the subcute layer, can pad out the dermis, and can reduce the risk of the ulcer reoccurring, and consequently reduce the risk of limb amputation in the future. That's the study. I saw all they see there is the end result. They see the ulcers. There's nobody in Egypt, and it's a big country, doing any preventative measures, doing any education for patients with diabetes. They don't have the same structure that we have in the UK, and it's so sad to see that. And they are very keen to be able to offer something that's preventative. This is the first time they've ever had something that's preventative at their fingertips. So that's a very interesting study that we're going to be looking at the results of that probably middle of next year, because we need to do some more layers of the gel, because that's how it works. But that is going to, I think it's going to revolutionize the way that diabetic hotspots, warning signs in diabetes, if you can take out the pressure from the cycle of diabetes, diabetic ulcer, there's a cycle, isn't it? There's ischemia, there's neuropathy, there's your diabetic well-being, and there's pressure. And if I can remove pressure from that circle, the likelihood of an ulcer forming is reduced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. So you're getting your crystal ball and spotting a hot spot. The only way to do it is to check the pressure in the foot routinely. There's nobody in Egypt that can do that. No, in other countries there definitely is. So I think that the doctors that I've been working with in Egypt were very keen to show the results after one treatment. all 5 patients had extensive neuropathy. They couldn't feel their feet. But the doctor rang up, he's a vascular surgeon, rang them yesterday, and they all said they felt better. They felt they were walking better. He said, I can't believe it. It's blowing my mind because they got neuropathy, but they feel better after one treatment. And these are horrendous feet.
But even the relief you can give people like in those sort of countries the ones who do feel pain.
Yes.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
the ones with neuropathy, they weren't feeling it anyway. But the people who are actually in pain and be able to put something, use Curacon there, is going to make a huge difference.
It's not just for diabetics. You can treat pretty much anybody with Curacon. So
yeah,
the potential for it as a go-to treatment, because it takes, 15 minutes to do a digital corn with Curacon, takes about half an hour to do a plantar. Little tiny bit of local anaesthetic. It's a chairside treatment. There's no wound. It's quicker than nail surgery. It's easier than nail surgery. And if you can cure a corn with it, why are we still cutting and coming again? Why are we enucleating and maintaining people at a painful level when we can cure them? When I first started doing it, I thought I was going to lose my private practice because I thought, I'm curing, I'm sending them away, and they don't need to come back. I'm losing money. But actually what happened for everyone I cured, and it does work, and it works for years and years. So they would speak about it at the tennis club or the football club or whatever, and I would get 10 new patients coming through the door. So actually in my private practice, I had to take on 3 new podiatrists just to filter the advanced stuff through to me. So the model that you used before of somebody doing the standard stuff, the bread and butter stuff, and then filtering through to me who could do the advanced stuff, worked so well that the business actually grew very quickly because people were sick of going every 2 to 4 weeks. So I always say to patients, you can pay to have Curacorn or you can pay to not get rid of your corn, and you're paying more not to get rid of your corn every year than you pay to have Curacorn. So why would you pay to not get rid of your corn?
Yeah, and what I want to point out to people too is you have not paid me to come on here and talk about Curacorn. Just so people are aware. Like, I don't want anyone to think, oh, well, I wonder how much Cath paid to come on there and talk about Curacorn, because it's not what this podcast is about. And
it's the perfect example of an innovation.
That's exactly,
in anybody's clinic. But there are lots of others that I've already mentioned. Your cortisone injections, your Swift, your ankle blocks, your laser treatments. There's plenty other things that nail surgery is the one I tend to quote more than anything. Years ago, we didn't do nail surgery.
No, but it's like you said, it's embracing these new technologies when they come out. When you hear about it, so I still get it. I get this magazine from the States, get it every month. I've been getting it since 1989. So for the last 35 years, I've been getting this magazine. And I used to read through it, and I used to sit there going, oh my God, what they do in America is just so far advanced what we do, just in certain aspects of podiatry, not the biomechanics side of things, but in other aspects. And as the decades passed, we've gotten closer and closer to the things we do over here that they do over there. But I remember the first couple of times I went to the States purely just to go and look at equipment, because I thought, we don't have that here. I want to bring a foot scanner into Australia and test it out. And I played around with a few of them for a couple of years. But I think podiatrists need to just, when they see something, go, how can we use that in podiatry to help our patients, help the profession, lift everybody's standards?
Yeah, I think the keys are communicate with patients, but communicate with the people around you that are in the medical profession. Communicate with them at every opportunity. If you learn something new, send letters to every doctor's practice manager and tell them you've got a new skill that's available in your area. We don't do it. And embrace innovations. Look at them with an open mind rather than the goggles that we tend to have on, where it's almost as if we're so frightened of something new. Do you get that sense when you're speaking to people that we're afraid?
I think in Australia, I can't speak for other countries, but I know some podiatrists over here, and our association is partly involved in all this. It's they don't want to upset anybody. They're scared what the physios will think. They're scared what the GPs and the medical profession will think. And I'm like, I don't stuff what they think. If it's good for our patients and it's good for our profession, we should just do it. And you know what? Let the physios and GPs make them aware that this is what we're doing. We're not going to wait for your permission anymore to actually move forward. We're just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think
The
when there's
ones
more
that I would
people
do it.
embracing that, I think it'll make the change. And I actually think a lot of the younger podiatrists coming through are more that way inclined now. There's still a lot of old crusty podiatrists around. And
Yeah.
I think some of the younger ones they're going to change the profession.
I hope so. I'd love to see a new wave of open-minded people coming into the profession. It's difficult that they're always, when I go to conferences, that the main topic is how do we recruit people into an area of the body that's not seen as sexy. Physiotherapy, you watch sport and the physiotherapists are always running on the pitch. Somebody once said to me, do you sit in the dugout? Well,
I know.
unless they need the toenail drilling or cutting, I'm not going to be needed on the pitch during a match. But the physios run on there, and it's seen as a much more attractive profession from young people's point of view.
Yeah.
Dentistry, they make a lot of money in dentistry. It's very glamorous. The cosmetic dentistry industry is a multi-billion-pound industry now. Feet have always been the kind of black sheep, if you like, the poor relation in the medical community. The people that you can do it at home, and I don't think that helps us, that you can do feet at somebody's home, because we need to break away from this kind of beauty image, this cosmetic image where we're just doing simple treatments, and we need to really shout as loud as we can to anybody that will hear, this is what we're capable of doing. Send them to us and we can help. But it's up to us. Our professional bodies can do it. They're reluctant to do it sometimes. But if we as individuals don't do it either, we don't attend conferences, we don't put ourselves forward, then we're going to be the same as we move on. And the profession is going to decline.
Well, even recently here in Australia, not too long back, they had the lower limb conference that Cameron Bennett ran. 150 podiatrists there, and all the feedback I heard from everybody and all the things I saw on social media, everyone was going like, hallelujah. Thank God there's something that is actually practical that they could actually learn from. The feedback was unbelievable. And what's going to be funny is you got the association just got their national conference this year in June, and I don't think it's going to have the same wow impact that the lower limb conference had. And I think we need more of these like smaller events that are really targeted towards certain things where podiatrists are interested in that area. What it is, it's not just what they learn there, it's them networking with each other. Like it says on the back of my wall, your next connection could be the one that changes your life.
Absolutely. And how often have you seen that?
Yeah. And I think when people go to events and they meet other podiatrists and they create these networks, this is what's going to change the profession, not having 70% of the talks at the national conference are research related that are just boring.
Yeah. No, we need to be concentrating on the things that are going to help us. Business training, marketing training is essential if you're running a business. And nowadays, the private is overtaking the NHS in the UK. Certain. Is it all private in Australia?
Mostly, yeah.
So without business acumen, without learning how to promote yourself, you've lost already, haven't you? You're not going to get very far. You're going to be on a treadmill, but you're going to be going round and round in circles. And why are we not training innovations as part of the university degree? Why? And it's because the people that do the training, the professional bodies, are, okay, well, we're not quite sure about that, so we don't want to commit to that. What if something goes wrong? Yeah, but what if something goes right? What if we can change the face of the NHS by curing patients instead of spending time and resources on allowing patients to just go through this turntable of treatments that don't get anywhere? That costs money.
It's true.
That's what drains the resources.
Before we wrap up, I want to go back a step. When you said that you posted something and you got, it was a bit of apathy. You didn't get a lot of comments, but you did get some comments. What comments did you get?
The ones that made me smile were the ones that said, oh, well, without nail cutting, that's bread and butter, kind of. That was the comment. That was people coming out of university, they can't fund courses to do advanced treatment without making money doing nail cutting. And again, that shows a lack of business acumen. Because, look, let's face it, you do an advanced course and stick it on your credit card. By the time you've got to pay your credit card off, you've done your course and you're making profit. It's about profit margins and making the most of your time. So that made me smile. But then I got some great comments that said, absolutely, as a profession, if we don't follow innovation and embrace it, then as a profession, we are dead in the water. And those are the comments that I really appreciated. Your friend Jonathan Small made a great comment on there, and he's a great advocate for doing exactly that.
Yeah.
We should be grabbing innovation with both hands. And I've had the opportunity to teach non-poddies Curacon. I've had doctors that are orthopedic doctors. I've had nurses that do facial aesthetics that want to learn how to do it. And I've said, no, I will only train podiatrists, not because I don't want to make money. I mean, in business, from a commercial point of view, it's suicide.
Yeah.
But if we don't keep those treatments for us, what's the point of having a podiatry profession at all? Why don't we just pass our profession over to a nurse that's interested in feet and let them do it? So I love my profession. I think it's a fantastic business to be in. And I think what we see day in, day out as podiatrists, the satisfaction in helping a person and making them feel better is better than any money. When you can finish your day and know you've made a difference, and some of these differences are life-changing. It could be the difference between losing a leg and not losing a leg. It could be the difference between feeling comfortable and not feeling comfortable. But that's why I came into it, and that's why we should embrace innovations. So I keep banging on about it. You keep banging on about it. Let's embrace.
It's like you said, you only train podiatrists. When I do my marketing workshops, when I do my 2-day reboots, when I do my one-on-one coaching, I only do it with podiatrists. I don't do it for physios. I don't do it for chiropractors. I don't do it anywhere else. I just do it for podiatry because I know that if I do it for podiatrists, then I know I'm going to be helping the profession. I do the Podiatry Legends podcast. It's exactly the same thing. And yeah, I think we all need to band together to try and make it better. And I know there's always going to be bickering. Everyone's going to have different opinions on things. I do think it's slowly improving. I like to think so anyway.
I think so. And I think thanks to people like us that bang on about it so much, and thanks to those networks that you talk about, which are so valuable, and some brilliant conferences that are put together now, not just, it used to be that you just went to your professional bodies conference. That was it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else around. And you got all your CPD points for one conference. Now people are looking outside. People are looking to other providers like Lower Limb Conference. The diabetic arena has got some fantastic conferences.
The foot and ankle show. The foot and ankle show is amazing.
It's amazing. The people that put that together, they really understand what podiatrists, as well as there are other disciplines there, but what is really essential to move our profession forward. We can't stand still anymore, Tyson. We need to move forward. We're coming into a new age of AI and a new digital technology area. And if we don't move forward and we just stand still, then I fear for our profession. I really do.
Yeah, it's true. I spoke to a student about 6 or 7 years ago. They just graduated, and all of a sudden they were talking about, they were still a student, and they said, "Oh, we're learning about making orthotics at the moment." And I said, "Oh, let me guess." And I took them through exactly what they were being taught and how the plaster cast was getting done and the mold and where the nails were going to go and building the front platform and how many mils go. And they went, I said, "That is exactly what they showed me in 1986.
Oh,
I said,
you're a dinosaur too.
Oh, yeah. I finished in 88. I'm not as old as you, but I'm not far behind you. But I took them right through the whole thing and they went, so that's exactly what they showed you. I said, well, I finished in 88. I said, but I remember seeing it the first time in 86. That's how they taught us. And I loved doing it. Yeah. And I went, wow, that's 30-something years later. And they were still teaching the same thing. And we went through all these other theories that they were teaching. We go, it was the same stuff. There was parts of the course, of course, that had improved, but there were many aspects of it that I just went, the thinking is so old.
On that note, before we close, I also, there's another course called PodTox, which uses botulinum toxin in the foot. PodTox is another trademark that I developed. But did you know in 2005, there was a study published in the British Medical Journal that showed a 70% satisfaction in curing plantar fasciitis with one injection of botulinum toxin? Now, since 2005, have you known anybody do anything with that study? And that was no ultrasound used.
Yeah.
So I expect that. It's only 9 patients, but the pain levels diminished to such a point that it was classed as significant improvement. In 2013, another study was published by somebody called, I've written his name, Jose Clement, and there was, again, over 70% improvement in Morton's neuroma using a botulinum toxin injection without ultrasound. Can you imagine? They suggest that it should be done under ultrasound. Can you imagine how that 70% plus would rise? And we've done nothing since 2005 and 2013. As a profession, we haven't looked at using botulinum toxin to cure Morton's neuroma and to cure, can you imagine a cure for plantar fasciitis?
I haven't read the research and I know nothing about that, so I'm not really qualified to comment on that. But I have seen where some people have got some PhDs in podiatry for the most obscure things that I'm thinking, does anyone really care about? They've just spent 6 years of their life doing this research on something that no one cares about, but then they get to speak at all the conferences and bore people senseless with it.
Well, to me, if I could show people we can cure plantar fasciitis, that is like mega impact on our industry. But it's going to take time for people to accept it.
Well,
but
maybe you'll have to go and do the research on that, and then come back on here and tell me what you found.
That's in the pipeline. We're already on that, but it's just so sad that it's from 2005 to 2024, and our professional bodies still haven't took that up, and I just find that so sad.
Yeah. One of the other things I find hilarious is when I graduated, you'd do a plaster cast, for example, you'd post it to a lab and you'd wait 2 weeks to get the orthotics back. Yeah. I graduated in 88. I will guarantee there's someone listening to this now who does a plaster cast, sends it off somewhere, and they wait 2 weeks to get their orthotics back. And the technology has advanced so much. And I know there's a lot of podiatrists now who I know who do scans.
Yes.
But they're still waiting quite a long time to get their orthotics back. And I think that's something where they should be putting pressure on the labs for them to up their game, get them out faster. Treatment needs to get done faster. We have the ways of doing it.
Yeah, well, with the technology breakthroughs that we've got now, there's really no excuse for that, is there?
I know. Okay, Cath, I want to thank you. We should call it a day before we upset anybody else. I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. Now, if people want to reach out to you, learn more about Curacorn, or just get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing it?
Email info@curacorn.co.uk. Maybe if you could pop that email address somewhere in.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
That would be great. Yeah, email's the best way. I don't run the company. My daughter Charlotte is the business lady. She runs the company. I created it. And there's a number of tutors across the world now who are waiting for people to show an interest and get them trained up. So, yeah, by all means, give us a shout. We've got loads of information that we can send out to anybody interested in more about that. And
you're doing some tours in Australia late 2025?
Curacon's coming on a road trip, October, November 2025. We've got a road trip planned. There is a podiatrist already qualified in Curacon. Josh is already over in Australia. So if anybody in Australia is interested, we can always put them in touch with Josh if they want some feedback about how he found the course and also about how he's finding it in his general practice and how much he's using it, that kind of thing. But yeah, he's breaking through the ceiling in Australia as we speak. No, that's cool. Okay, Cath, thank you very much for coming in. I look forward. I'll see you in Liverpool in February. It'll soon be here. Okay. And thank you so much. No, it's been fun. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.